Welcome to all of you out there, my astrology friends. This is a video about the full moon in Virgo, 5 things that are very important and significant for this full moon in Virgo, what it is all about in general, and then I'm going to break it down into each and every single sign, one step by step, every 12 signs that I'm going to have a look at. So let's get started with, first of all, number one, what do you need to know about this full moon? Well, first of all, it's in Virgo, and it's on around and about the 7th of March. It's at 16 degrees of Virgo. So the moon is going to be at 16 degrees of Virgo, opposing the sun in the opposite sign at 16 degrees of Pisces. A full moon is always about some sort of completion, some sort of things coming to light, things that become very, very full, you could say. Now in Virgo, what does that mean? It's always around this time of the year. And it's the full moon in Virgo has to do with an emphasis on Virgo stuff, an emphasis on hopefully the good side of Virgo. You know, you don't want to go towards the pitfalls of being overly analytical like crazy, right? The monkey mind. Being overly critical, being overly wanting to be perfectionist, and all those things that we know about Virgo are a bit over the top. You know, this is my Virgo energy. I want this to be more perfect. But you see, already tuning into this Virgo full moon. But the positive side is definitely a cleansing, a purifying. So doing cleanups, making your closet full of order, and of course ranked by color, absolutely, that kind of stuff. And to be very practical, to be of service, to heal, basically, by teaching, not only teaching but treating your body in a very respectful way, so with good foods and so on, and good routines. So sorting out your routines is definitely one that can contribute towards this full moon. So it's not, of course, all cleaning and etc. It's more than that. But in a nutshell, it really has to do with this beautiful, you could say, boring effort that you do in today, and that can make your life better in the long run, so to speak. It's indeed if you make sure that your closet is in the right order, that every single day it keeps you away from annoyance and, mental breakdowns and all that kind of stuff, because everything is chaos. So it really wants to make order in the chaos. So that's first of all. Secondly, what is very, very interesting is that after this full moon has occurred, a couple of, I think 1 hour or maybe a little bit more after that full moon, Saturn shifts into a new sign, which is that sign where the sun is, namely in Pisces. That is very significant. It shows that around this full moon energy, there is groundedness in Saturn in Pisces, which means I want to make that structure. Remember what I said in the other videos about Saturn in Pisces. I'll put a link below and also at the end of the video. It's all about structuring the unconscious, and it's all about making a bit of a structure and dealing with the things that we don't want to deal with, or that are old patterns, so to speak. So we are having that energy simultaneously. So that is actually a good sign, because Saturn in Pisces, Saturn in the 12th house, which is a bit similar, is seen as Saturn in its joy, they call it in ancient astrology. And it is seen as quite positive because it structures the unconscious. So that's another flavor that we have during this full moon. Another thing, I keep the best for last, by the way. The third thing that is important is, with this full moon, that the ruler of it, which is Mercury, because Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, is also in Pisces. So actually the ruler of this full moon is in a sign where it doesn't like to be. Is that bad or good? No. It's just in a sign that it needs to be a little bit more alternative in order to work. Because Mercury loves to be in a sign where it can investigate, where it can analyze, and now it's in a sign of pictures rather than words, you could say, of drawing rather than speaking. And that is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's very alternative. So it's a bit off there. It's a bit less powerful, you could say, but that doesn't mean to say that it's going to do it in a bad way, right? People with Mercury in Pisces, for instance, they can be good writers, but they are more like using their right side brain, which is the more holistic side of life, to put that into their writing. So that's one thing as well, that we are a lot in this Piscean energy, and not only with our thoughts. So we want to see the bigger picture. We want to see, we want to read through the lines, or how do you say that expression in English? Reading through the lines, is that directly translated from Dutch? I think it is. But anyway, you probably understand what I'm trying to say here. So that was the third thing that is significant, to know that everything is a little bit different here. And the fourth thing that is also very interesting is the ruler of the Pisces energy, which is the ancient ruler Jupiter, is very close to Chiron. So in Aries, what does that mean? Well, that the ruler of the sign where the Sun is, where Neptune is, where Saturn is, where Mercury is, that ruler, that significant indicator over there, is next to Chiron in Aries. So this is about healing. This is about healing. This is about going through the pain rather than making a U-turn or trying to escape from it or whatever. It's going through the pain, and that shows the healing. It's the acceptance of the pain, and therefore the healing. And Aries is all has to do with the body. So stuff like body shaming and stuff like I'm not good enough, it's stuff that we all carry on, for many of us. Not all maybe, but many of us, right? And Aries is really about the essence of you. Who are you? And I'm good as I am. I'm already whole, right? I don't need this or I don't need that externally. I'm already whole. And that is the key. One of the keys, one of the 5 keys here of this full moon as well. So keep that in mind as well. But last and certainly not least, number 5, which I think is the most important thing of this whole full moon, it is the T-square. It is a T-square. T-square is like this, and it is formed in the mutable signs, right? So we've got this moon in Virgo. It's mutable. It means it's flexible, right? And it opposes Pisces, and the moon opposing the sun. And it squares, both of that, the sun and the moon squares to Mars, because Mars is in Gemini, around and about the same degrees. So I think Mars is around and about 21 degrees. So it's almost an exact T-square that is formed here. So we've got Mars in a square to the moon, to that full moon. We've got Mars in a square to Neptune. We've got Mars in a square to the sun. Neptune is at 24 degrees, the sun at 16 degrees. So you see what kind of a tension we have here in this full moon, and it's a mutable tension. So advice number 1 is to be flexible, for sure. Because plan A is going to turn into plan B, and plan B is going to turn into plan C, etc., etc. Not only because it's a T-square in the mutable signs, but also because it's a Neptunian T-square. So this is a very strongly Neptunian full moon. And I think, in my humble opinion, Saturn coming into the sign of Pisces is a good thing, because it keeps us with the feet on the ground. And that is needed when we have such a full Neptunian moon. because this moon opposes Neptune as well. Now, so it's rather an emotional full moon, right? Because this moon is going to bump into Mars, which is, I'm getting irritated because something emotionally, it can be a person, it can be a situation, depending on your chart, is irritating me. And therefore I become emotional, whether it is sad, whether it is angry, whatever. It's probably angry and irritation with this moon Mars. But then there's also the moon opposite this, Neptune, which is getting emotional, getting maybe very sad, and because things are not how you want them to be perfectly, right? That is the moon in Virgo. So we can be blinded indeed by not seeing well, by details, very misty energy. So how can you prepare yourself? Well, first of all, by knowing it, by knowing that, because also this Mercury, although it is not conjoining with the sun, but the Mercury is at 8 degrees of Pisces. So it's also a little bit flu there. It's also very tricky energy to know exactly what's going on. And it thinks that it's, I have a feeling here, but the feeling might be wrong. Now, I'm not going to say that intuition is totally off. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we don't know all the information. Period. So we're going to know all the information when this full moon is over, which will be more towards the 8th to 9th to 10th and onwards after this full moon. But the building up towards this full moon, and particularly on the day of the full moon, which is around the 7th, you are going to feel this energy very strongly. So you are warned now. If you say like, what's going on here? I don't know what the information, now it's this information and tomorrow it's another piece of information. And well, what the heck is going on? What do you do when you're driving into the mist with your car? Do you accelerate? Of course not. So indeed, you slow down. And that's what is recommended with this full moon, to slow down, to ground yourself, do some exercises, go around the house, a couple of, walks or whatever it is with the dog or whatever, something that grounds you. Go to have a good steak, that grounds you as well. And eat some potatoes. They come from the ground or under the ground. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that probably either from you or from others or circumstances, there's going to be a lot of chaos. There's going to be, and you thinking that you're knowing it, you already know now by hearing this video, you already know, I might not have all the information. If you are in that position of being alert, of being in that car and slowing down a little bit and using your senses and looking what's going on there, and not to chase too much and not to do too much. And because of course, Mars also squares Neptune. So the recent video was all about Mars square Neptune. So the March video, I'll also put a link below and at the end of the video, because that is all about your intention. So all in all, keep it cool. With this Virgo, it's not a usual Virgo full moon, not at all. It's one that's very hoo, but keep the feet on the ground. Keep information with a piece of salt, you could say, and just the test of time, right? Let that work out. Let it unfold is basically what I'm trying to say here. Don't intervene too quickly, because tomorrow it can be different. And meanwhile, ground yourself, and it's going to resolve itself by itself, basically. So it is a lot about trust. It is a lot about trusting not only yourself, but also the universe. And what it also is about is this intention of people. People who are going to do sneaky stuff now, it's truly going to backfire very strongly. And people who are trying to do that to you as well, it's going to backfire very, very strongly. And Saturn in the sign of Pisces is going to help us to ground ourselves. So that's in a nutshell. Stay grounded and slow down. Best advice I can give you. But let's look now for the 12 signs, you know, very shortly, and in combination with the other video like Saturn and Pisces, in combination with the video of the March horoscope, you could make like a bigger picture here. But for Aries, this full moon is in your 6th house. So all that I've been talking about slowing down and about being aware of what's going on here, is in your day-to-day life, the day-to-day routines, your work habits, the way that you do your administration. If you don't work, you know, it's really the way that you do life. And there is something about it that's not clear. And the thing is to be very alert with that. And also, of course, it's the house of health. So there could be something that is very Neptunian, you know, you don't know the cause of it. And it's like you go to this doctor and they say it's plan A. And you go to another doctor, they say it's plan B, which is the opposite. You know, you can be very, follow your gut feeling and go with the flow a little bit and be very calm. Don't let yourself make crazy by those doctors, especially when they are trying, or you're going for a second opinion and they say the opposite. I've had that many times. But the thing is to stay cool and to go within and to do the best you can do today. And the person that you will feel the most trust towards, it will come. It will come after this full moon. And you will definitely know the information then. And after a period of very much unclarity comes a period of clarity. So the clarity comes for you after this full moon and after the work that you do, like you trust, you do the best you can, you stay grounded, you let the chaos around you, maybe at work or with your health, and you don't know what it is, and you don't panic, basically. You don't let the monkey mind blow up, and you will have the solution, right? This is just temporary of a couple of days here. So very interesting indeed, because this Neptune is in your 3rd house. So it's information that comes from all places, and that not necessarily in a conscious way is negative, or they give you misinformation on a conscious level. Not always. It's just Neptune. But it's there to show us all those parallel ways that we can investigate. So use your wisdom, of course, and certainly when it goes to health and when you have a serious health problem, of course, go to the doctor, of course, let yourself get treated. That's not what I'm saying here, that you just have to sit in your chair and do nothing. I hope it was helpful here, but what I'm trying to say is that the next couple of days, and certainly Aries people, because they are ruled by Mars, and your ruler is making that T-square, and your ruler is in your ruler is here in Gemini, in the 3rd house. Yeah, that's what I was saying. But it's definitely something that you feel that burrows up, you know. That is so known by Aries people. They feel it so viscerally. So a conversation, really make sure that you know what you're saying, and that you think, like, you count to 5 at least. If you can't count to 10, count to 5 before you say something that might hurt someone else, and you would not do that deliberately, but it can have some consequences. So meanwhile, of course, stay with Jupiter and Chiron in your 1st house. You're kind of really healing with all this. You're definitely going through the pain. You're definitely acknowledging it, and you're healing. So that's a good thing. Taurians, this full moon for you is a jolly one. It's a good one for you. Why? Because you are an earth sign, and Virgo is also an earth sign, and this is in your 5th house. So it's time for you to have some fun. It's time for you to have fun. It's time for you to let loose, to let your hair down. It's really time for you to do so. And you are very protected by this energy between Virgo and between Taurus. So for you, it is a bit more like, hey, I want to go out for a doing something nice, doing something that you love to do, whether it is go to a restaurant, whether it is going to a movie, something that you really enjoy. And also with friends, it could be with friends as well. You're going to have this very good time. And really, I don't want to put it in other words there, but the fifth house is also your children. So you could be having fun with children, or you could be having fun with creating something. So you want to create something, you want to do something from the heart. So the heart chakra here is key. So, yes, you really want to do it the right way, but you also have that tendency to let go and let, just follow your intuition and go with the flow a little bit. So you're one of those signs, together with the Capricorns, that this is the easiest for you. So enjoy that for sure. Geminis, you are also having that Mars in your sign still, and you square up to that Virgo full moon. So for you, this is super significant. This is a bit of a tension, this full moon for you with this T-square. And it is there for a reason. It is there for a reason because you want to stand up for yourself. You have to be careful that you're not exaggerating and that your intentions. So for you, the key thing is here, what is your intention? If your intention is correct, you really can't go wrong. Your intention is correct and you're doing it for yourself and for others all involved. And you're doing it to constructively build something in the future. Then you really can't go wrong here. You can only do your best. And but it has to do with key areas of your life. It has to do with you, with other people. It has to do with your home. It has to do with your work. So there could be some chaos occurring for sure. Definitely because Neptune is in the opposite sign of work. So you could say the indicator of like not knowing where you're heading can definitely have to do with your work. But go with the flow a little bit. Remember what I said in the beginning of keep it cool, keep it grounded. This will pass. And but it's definitely also to do a healing when it comes to this your goals and your wishes for the future, where Jupiter is together with Chiron. So it's definitely has to do with that as well. But you want to make sure that if you really have to stand up for yourself now, that you do it. And you do it not by being arrogant. You're not doing it by being a doormat and let people walk all over you. You're doing it in an assertive, healthy way, which is saying no. No. And you don't have to explain yourself too much with this Mars in your first house. But again, it only becomes negative, this Mars in your first house, when you want to do sneaky stuff. So it's actually, other than that, it can be a very interesting time, because after this, things are really going to be more clear for you. Things are really going to, the insecurities that also you had around these topics like relationships, housing, work, these are all falling into place, and that's a good thing. Cancerians, this Virgo full moon is in your third house. As Cancer and Virgo go well together, they form a sextile. It's not too bad for you, right? So this is highlighting your third house, which is a very busy house. It's a communicative house. It's the house of your siblings. It's the house of your neighbors. It's the house of short trips, travel, communication, how you communicate, how you pick up information. So you have to be aware that the information that you pick up or your beliefs can be a bit like, this week you firmly believe in this, and next week you firmly believe in something else. Don't blame yourself. Don't be too angry with yourself. But this is about this more structuring of Saturn in your ninth house, the more structure that comes of what is good for you. What is your belief, and actually not the belief that is inherited from parents or that you copy paste from your spouse or your friends or whatever. No, it's you. So this is all a very intellectual and very mindful kind of energy for you. And but again, for you, very important with still this Mars in your 12th house to follow your integrity, right? If you're going to do sneaky stuff, it's going to come out. If you're going to do, things that you want to do under the surface, and because of this insecurity and because of avoiding the pain, it's going to backfire. And the healing process can come for you through your position in the world, which is your public life, which is how other people perceive you, your 10th house, or your work. So that is something to keep in mind as well. Leos, this is your 2nd house. So this is all about values. So there could be certainly some value, ego struggles going on when you are in a relationship. Right, so this is I want black, you want white. You know, that kind of ego struggle. Beware of that, because what you value today might change tomorrow. So be a bit cool around that. And but the healing is definitely coming for you from your mind and from the connection that you have with the divine, with something. And if you don't believe in God or in the divine or in nature, then your higher self. So you really are going to be very honest with yourself. And that is a gift, absolutely. But there will be clearing up of this energy when it comes to also your finances. So you could be really not knowing where you're heading when it comes to your finances. And that one people that you consult says you have to do plan A. Another person says plan B. You know, let it all sink in. The information and the guidance that you're asking, if that is your situation, and then you will be fine, and it will unfold right before your eyes that this or that was correct or not correct. So have a bit of patience on your behalf when it comes to solutions around your assets, your belongings, between the money that you earn and how you want to improve it, basically. Right? So you're going to have some clarity after this full moon for sure. Virgos, dear Virgos, this is your full moon. If you've got planets around 16 degrees of Virgos, you're going to feel this very strongly. And you being Mercury, you're going to be a bit all over the place. So all what I said in the beginning is definitely applicable for you. And so this is all about you and relationships, but also your work, because the Mars is making the T-square to work and career. So it's all key areas of your life that are a bit in chaos, you could say, or it seems to be, but it's just temporarily to show you the different possibilities, and so that you find clarity afterwards. You are very emotional, though, around this time. So be aware that normally Virgos are it's not an emotional sign at all. But now this moon is opposing Neptune, so you are being a bit like having a moon in Pisces. So you're going to be emotional, and when that comes up, just let those emotions flow. Don't try to push them away, or it's probably going to be emotions that have the energy of irritation, frustration, because things that happen at your work, things that happen with the spouse or the boyfriend, girlfriend, with other people. So it could really be that you really have to be aware of the fact that you might see things a little bit different, and you might see the detail a bit too big now, so that you don't see the perspective anymore. So, but of course, if you feel emotional during that time, it means that you probably before that time, you had a period of time where you have stuffed your emotions, so they need to come out anyway. So you're one of those signs that when you really haven't expressed those emotions yet, consciously or unconsciously at other times, it's going to it wants to express itself now. So it's not a bad thing to say what you feel now during this moment, but you are a bit confused, and if that is the case, it's okay. It's okay. You know, us being Virgos, We don't like to be confused, but every now and then we also have to accept that we can be confused. But watch definitely the first part as well of this video. Librans, this is happening in the 12th house. So this is all behind the scenes energy. This is all energy in the realms of dreams, in the realms of when we sleep, in the realms of the unconsciousness. So there could be a pattern showing itself, the blind spot, the shadow, in quite a detailed way. And all of a sudden you're confused by that. And it has an effect on your day-to-day routines, your day-to-day life. So definitely something is highlighted here where it has to do with if you want to escape, for instance, which we all want to do every now and then, because life isn't always wow, right? So, but here it can show us when we go too far with that escape, when it becomes negative, when it becomes a bit troubled. And but there's definitely healing as well with this process, because through people, through a significant other, or through a person that is very important for you, because there is where Jupiter and Chiron. So it's a good time for consulting, right? And for really, you could say, go through those barriers of pain and understanding. So it's a huge opportunity, even if you're a bit in the mist, but after this full moon, you're going to feel more understanding towards the self that was even hidden from you, right? If you want that, because not everyone wants to deal with that. So, and the indicator that is a bit frustrated there is Mars in the 9th. So can go through a certain opinion, a certain clash with someone else about how you feel about things. Basically, that can be the accelerator. Scorpios, this is, Scorpio and Virgo go pretty well together. It's called a sextile, so it's not going to be that bad for you. And this moon is in your 11th house, though, which is a very social house. This could be a very social time for you, with gatherings with friends, with like-minded people. But it's going to be either very confusing or it's going to be very amusing when you let go a little bit, when you go with the flow. And as a Scorpio, a water sign, that goes well with the sun in Pisces, with all this Pisces energy. I think Scorpios will have an opportunity here, if they stay grounded as well, of course, with good boundaries. And but they can have the most fun here during this full moon for sure. Even if it's in Virgo, even if it's like, you can be really of service to one of your friends. All your friends are going to be very much of service for you, and it's a gathering of like having fun and with people that you like, because they are so friendly to you. So on another level, it can also mean that a friend is very emotional, and a friend is going through some things that are very confusing, and the best that you can do is just to be there, not to try to solve it, not to try to give them advice unless they really ask, but just to be there. It's more being rather than doing that can be of significance. But all in all, quite an enjoyable full moon. And yes, and your ruler in the 8th house with Mars there can have to do with this breakthrough on a deep psychological level, which is what Scorpios really love, when another piece of themselves that was hidden for them, or that was that they were a little slave to it, right? Because that's the 8th house, that they have conquered it, But there is first some unclarity around it before they can have more clarity. So you're definitely gonna feel better after this Mars-Neptune thing has gone, and that will be a bit more towards the end of the month, but the peak is definitely around the 7th. Sagittarians, you're going to feel this very strongly, because you are also a mutable sign, and you're making what we call a full square of the T-square. Now, especially if you have planets around 16 degrees. And that is not necessarily a bad thing, because when I see people having these full squares in their chart formed, things after that full square, they fall into place. So it's for you definitely also, because this moon of yours is in the house of in your public house, so in your work, or how you are seen by the world. There's some changes there going on, and there's some not necessarily that you could say that you haven't seen coming. That's not what I mean, but it's more on an emotional level that you feel like, oh, this needs to change. And it also has to do with other people, because you've got Mars in that 7th house. So actually in all areas of your life, significant areas, like you versus other people, if you are in a connection, your home life, your work, it's all under, what's going on here? And there could be some frustration by the person that you are living with, or another person that is very significant for you. There could be lots of frustration coming up, and that you don't know what's going on with them, because the ruler of your 7th house, Mercury, is in also that blurry kind of energy of Pisces. Well, not blurry, but more a bit spaced out, you could say. And you're not used to that, because the ruler of your 7th is Mercury, and that's the ruler of Virgo. But now it's in Pisces. So it's a little bit more, it's like you're going to see that if you are in a relationship that your partner is really insecure, it could mean that they're going through a very short phase now of insecurity. And again, how you act is very significant, namely not acting. So don't try to fix things and being the wiseacre, and that's the pitfall of the Sagittarius. Just be there, hear them, and also stand your ground, of course. And but know that when you feel now very insecure about your path, basically, going to the left or the right, it is there to show you all the possibilities, the parallel universes. So be in your sports car there, imagine, of course, in your sports car, and slow down and just enjoy what you're seeing. And that is the wise personality of the wisdom of a Sagittarian. And you will be able to have full action forwards, definitely around the later weeks of the month of March, because then Mars goes full on in your 7th house, and then it will be much more lively and positive towards what you want to reach with other people and what you want to reach with your connections as a whole. So, but definitely when it comes to, it can also mean that something about your work, there is something very Neptunian, something that you don't know, you can't put your finger on it. Let it be. Don't try to understand it. It will come by the unfolding of it. That's the whole idea. Capricorns, this is happening in your 9th house. As I said, for Capricorns, you are a fellow earth sign. So for you, together with the Taurians, it's not such a big deal. It's actually quite an enjoyable energy for you, because these two earth signs go well with each other. And certainly the 9th house is one of my favorite houses, because it's the house of wisdom. It's the house of connection with the divine, with the nature, with God, if you like, or with your higher self. It has to do with travel. So you could be traveling, you could be studying, you could be going to a cultural event, and that gives you really this very big inspiration. I think for the Capricorns, it's an inspiration thing. It definitely is. It's an inspiration thing. It could be a trip that is very, very romantic that you're undertaking. And so keep the feet on the ground, of course. But having said that, it's definitely an energy of, yes, where you can achieve a lot. Although in your day-to-day work, in your day-to-day habits, when it comes to your health, you could be annoyed here with this Mars, because that it squares up to that. So it could mean that you're traveling, and because of that, the pile of work is, and you have to do a little bit of both. You have to do, some emails during your holiday or something like that. But all in all, a very enjoyable energy. And don't forget that Jupiter and Chiron are in your 4th house, and that is a healing from within. It's like you're being your own parent. You're nurturing yourself. Beautiful stuff. Aquarians, this is happening in your 8th house, this full moon. And the 8th house is, versus the 2nd house, is the house of ego struggles, I find, because of values. So there could be a change in value that is preparing itself. And it has to, if you are in a relationship, this is definitely about the resources that you might share. Or if it's not about those resources, it's about you find this important, they find something else important. And it's all this Neptunian kind of energy. Again, don't try to force to, you could say, to manipulate the other person so that they think what you are gonna think, because it's not gonna work, and vice versa, of course. And sit it out a little bit if you can, and of course, if that is possible, and you will see the truth of the value that and the trust that you have in other people. So there could come up some trust issues as well that you thought were taken care of, but it certainly is mobilized by this Mars in your 5th house, which is your heart, right? Which is how you really are on an authentic level. And it could mean that a project, a child, a lover is really frustrating you at this particular time. And because of the opposition between values. So know your battles, choose your battles very wisely, and know that this is very temporary. Okay, but the healing thing can come through your words and through your mind, because that is where Jupiter is with Chiron. So that you go through the pain by communicating about your pain or about the pain of someone else, and that you can find healing there because of acceptance rather than, putting your head in the sand. And last but not least, dear Pisceans, this is happening in your opposite house. You have all those planets in your sign, and there you have it, the moon in the 7th house of relationships. If you haven't gotten a relationship, it's still someone that is appearing very moon-like, you could say, which could be emotional. And normally, I say normally, don't take this as an offense, but normally the people that you encounter are Virgo energy, which are very grounded people, rational people. But it could mean that now they are not. They are the opposite. They are emotional. They are confused. And be just you, because there's no better sign than, or no sign that can deal better with this than you. Because Pisces is a sign that can really be truly, fully aware of the oneness of the universe and also the oneness of people. But now, because this happens to another person that single or not, or in a relationship, if you're in a relationship, it's that person that I'm talking about. It could really mean that they are not so rational at the moment, and it makes you as well very confused, because you think, well, what is happening here? What is happening? But know that this is a temporary thing. They're always gonna appear as the Virgo, or they don't have to be a Virgo, but those Virgo qualities of rationality and of service and all those good stuff are sometimes a bit perfectionistic and being very demanding and critical. But know that this is a temporary thing, and know that there could be confusion in relationships for sure. And consciously, or probably more unconsciously than consciously, there's just confusion because of the circumstances that, but you want to talk about it with this Mercury in your sign, and it's best to do so, but to go with the flow a little bit and just to let things settle down, right? This Mars is in your 4th house, so that could be a bit tricky at home, that there is the frustration going on. There is frustration going on with family, or with, just at home, because you don't know where you're heading, or another person doesn't know where they're heading. And it's all a bit of a frustration energy. So With Saturn entering your sign, you could really absolutely immediately feel amongst all this kind of going with the flow energy and confusing energy, you could feel straight away, already an hour after this full moon, straight away feeling that you're grounded and that you're not going to give in to all the insecurities and react upon that. That you're going to rather respond, and a late response, if you know what's happening when things are settled down. So I think all in all, for the Pisceans, as they know this energy so well, you are definitely the one that is most capable of dealing with it. But because the other people are involved here that are normally very grounded and might not act very grounded, it's very confusing. So, but you're going to find stability in yourself. That is a beautiful thing. That is healing. That is healing, and this Aries Jupiter conjunction of Chiron and Aries is in the sign of self-worth. So you're going to feel like, hey, even that girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse who's always so rational and also is losing it at the moment, I'm not alone. It's that kind of feeling and that kind of realization that can actually ground you and see that you are very gentle towards yourself as well. And that these other people are just a reflection of you as well. So that the oneness of that. But it's the oneness, Neptune in your sign, together with the individuality of Saturn in your sign. Super interesting. Having said that, thank you so much for listening. I wish you all a very good full moon in Virgo, and see you next time. Bye-bye.